Welcome to Health Coach for Women, a podcast where we explore alternative and holistic solutions to better health and wellness through intentional living. Now, here's your host, Marsha Roopchand-Walker.
Welcome to another episode of Health Coach for Women, a podcast where we explore alternative and holistic solutions for better health and wellness. And I'm your host, Marsha. So today, breaking the strong Black women myth. Let's talk about that. You know, the one where we're supposed to hold down the fort, work a 9 to 5, hold everything down, cook, clean, and raise kids and save the world. You know what I mean? And on top of that, have flawless edges. Now, I mean, when did we sign up for a superhero gig? All right. And can I at least get a cape or a coffee break with that? I'm just saying. All right. Because this whole thing of keeping it all together is exhausting. And I think my edges deserve a little better. All right. That was a little sense of humor. That was my opening statement for today. Before we get started into this topic, I want you to go ahead and hit that like button, share, and subscribe. So I want to talk about that. On a serious note, I really want to talk about defining what is a Black woman, right? And what is a strong Black woman? And we hear this a lot in our community, right? In the African American community, we hear this a lot. And there tends to be a stereotype when it comes to this because it portrays us women of African American descent and culture as strong, resilient, right? Self-reliant and able to endure hardship, right? Without showing any vulnerability. And what this does is pressures women to suppress our emotions and avoid seeking help, right? And so let's say this statement, we know there is some truth in this statement, right? There is some truth in this statement. And because this relates back to our historical roots in slavery, right? And the separation and the breaking up of the family, right? The woman, if her kids wasn't taken away from her, right? The woman had to raise the children, right? And we even see this today, right? We have single parents who are raising children, right? Raising children, doing it all. But I want to challenge it. And the reason why I want to challenge it, because even though that may be true, right? It may be true to a certain extent, right? So that's what I want to talk about today. So it's true to a certain extent. And so, because that leaves us in a place of not wanting to be vulnerable, always portraying this image of being the strong Black woman, right? Of being strong and resilient, right? Which, like I said, many cases, we have to be, right? In many cases, we have to be. But in the process, we rule out, we kind of stray away from vulnerability because it seems to make us weak when nothing can be further from the truth, right? So I want to get into that, all right? So, and you know what, and I just want to share a quick story. You know, back when I was dating, before I was married and dating, I had guys that would say that, right? Telling me, well, you know, you'll be okay because you're strong. You'll be all right. You know, you're a strong woman. Like, okay, but where is this coming from? Why do you feel that because you think that I'm strong, or because that's what I presented to you, right? That I'm not hurting, that I'm in a place where I need help, right? And I'm not talking about financial help, right? I'm talking about in a place mentally, you know, and I've talked about this before, you know, of my dealing with bouts of this depression and when I was anemic and the continuous bleeding and stuff like that, right? That I went through, and how that brought on depression, and not just that. It's just like when you're going through life, right? Maybe I remember the times you know, at my job, you know, when I worked in law enforcement as a correction officer, that I hated it, right? I hated it. And I hated the shift change, the rotation of the shift changing every 4 days, right? And my daughter, you know, I remember her crying out the window, being so sad and crying and not wanting me to go to work, right? But at that time, I did what I felt that I had to do, right? I needed to be able to provide and take care of my daughter at the time. And so 2020 is hindsight, but could I have done something differently, like chose another profession? Maybe, but I went with what I was able to get at the time because I wanted to take care of myself and I didn't want to rely on the system, being on welfare and getting on food stamps. It was a good starter to help, but it's not me. It's not, I don't mind working. I don't mind doing things because I feel like it's what I want to do. It's what I'm supposed to do. Right. And so I just had people tell me that, oh, but you're a strong woman, you're strong. You'll be able to handle it. You're okay. And so I want to break this myth of just because a woman is strong doesn't mean that she doesn't go through it. It doesn't mean that she doesn't need your help or your support, right? Even if you're not there to help her in any other way, but to give her that support, that comfort, and saying, you know what, we'll get through this. I'm here for you as your friend or whatever. Like, how can I be of service? How can I help you? What can I do to make things better? Something, right? And for when women don't get that, you feel alone, right? You feel alone. You feel like no one hears you, no one sees you, right? I get that. I know that because I've been there. So this is why I wanted to talk about this topic. And so many people, you have people and I even see little video skits where people are, having these little skits of the strong Black woman, right? And it's like, wow, this is really a stereotype. This is really a thing. And it's okay for us to be strong, yet to embrace our vulnerability. Okay. Embrace our vulnerability and not being afraid to ask for help when we need it. Okay. So this is why I want to talk about this topic and breaking this myth. So I talked about the origins, right, of through slavery and the breaking up of families, right? And even now, you know what I mean? Like even now, we have these images of the strong Black woman that we see on TV and the portrayal of woman that we can be either unbreakable and, oh, I don't need a man, I could do it on my own, I don't need no man, right? All of these type of things that we see on TV, right? And that creates and form and perpetuates the belief of the strong Black woman, right? So listen, we know that it can have harmful effects on your mental as well as your emotional well-being. Okay. We know this because and sometimes when we portray this on the outside, we're really hiding and we're really hurting. I know I've been there. Okay. So I could attest to that. And I never wanted to let down my guard. I never wanted to be vulnerable. I didn't want to show that because for me, it was a sign of weakness. And a sign of weakness means now they can infiltrate you and try to hurt you, right? And so I built up this wall, right? And I talked about this in my book, and I talked about when I was able to really become vulnerable. And it was not until I got married, right, being with my husband, not even right away, a couple of years later, where I experienced a place of vulnerability, right? And I talked about that in a book. So, what are some of the emotional costs, right, of the strong Black woman persona, right? Again, suppressed emotions, right? That difficulty of expressing your vulnerability, as well as isolation, right? It can lead to chronic stress, anxiety, or even depression, right? And it can impact your physical health as well, right? Stress-related conditions such as high blood pressure, right? Hypertension, heart disease, and even autoimmune disorders, right? Now, when I was going to nursing school, right? The funny thing I noticed when I was reading a lot of these texts, when it came to chronic conditions, right? For some reason, I noticed in all the textbooks, right? They always had the community who was impacted the most by many of these things was the African American community. And I find that to be, I don't know, I don't want to say unbelievable. But I kind of did think at the time when I was reading it that, oh no, they're just saying that. They're just, this was just saying that there's no way that, for all of these different conditions, it's mostly impacting the African American community, right? And so, but now as I look back and as I am seeing how certain things as it relates to the origins of it, that there is some link. There is definitely a possibility in a link, because we know that mental health does exist in our community, right? Mental health issues does exist in our communities, whether we choose to talk about it or not, right? And we deal with what? Cultural pressure, right? Cultural pressure, which leads me into when I said whether we choose to talk about it or not, the cultural pressure of feeling that need to keep it all together, right? To hold it all together, right? And we're supposed to be strong, have this portray this image of keeping it all together and let the family business stay within the family, because we don't talk about it, right? So certain things are supposed to be stay within the family and not be talked about, right? But this is something that we really have to focus on and change the narrative on, and which is why I want to talk about it here today, right? So listen, we know that women are natural nurturers, right? And the backbone of holding it all together and keeping it all together, right? And families all together, right? Is the mom who is the nurturer, right? But it is the village that keeps it together, right? It takes a village to raise a child, as they say, right? So the expectation sometimes to being nurturing and supportive and emotionally strong can take a toll on an individual, right? It can take a toll. And this is where we come in, where we talk about put your mask on first, right? Making sure that we take care of ourselves, doing self-care things that we need to put ourselves first, because there's so much, not only with our jobs, right? Our careers, our family life at home. It's just so much going on that sometimes you need a breather. And then sometimes you just want someone to talk to and to be able to express what you're feeling, right? And so, let's talk about that even further. What are some signs that you can look for? What are some signs, some red flags, right, to notice when it comes to your mental health, right? Some key things to notice is paying attention to how you are feeling, your emotions. Do you feel hopeless, right? Do you have problems concentrating and making decisions, right? What about physical symptoms? That stress and everything can manifest throughout the body in physical ways, right? Headaches, fatigue, right? Sleep disturbances, right? Related to stress, and avoidance of social situations or feelings of isolations, right? Feelings of isolation where we want to be left alone. Listen, this is why it's important to check in with your emotions, right? Check in with your emotions and do things like journaling, right? How are you feeling today? I have this thing on my phone where it's a reflection app. It's a health app that comes with my phone, so it always monitors my health. And there's something on here that checks on the end of the day, a reflection, right? How did you feel today? What was your mood like? And I don't do it. Sometimes I just don't have time to do it. But for those of you who are in need, where you're looking for that extra thing, doing this thing such as journaling and the reflection, like your daily reflections, how did I feel today? What happened today at work? What could I have done differently? Right?
If you are struggling with health issues like chronic pain, being held back by past traumas, or feeling overwhelmed and hopeless, please know there is hope. There is help. Transcendence, a woman's guide to healing and self-love for better health, happiness, and abundance, is a blueprint to help you get your life back and reclaim your health. Within its pages, you'll learn how to elevate your existence by shifting your mindset toward the positive, focusing your energy on what's really important, using gratitude to feel deep appreciation, changing your gene expression through epigenetics, building resilience, and living in a state of flow, feeling love overflow within. Go beyond an ordinary life. Transcend. Buy it now.
So if you had a bad day at work and maybe somebody really ticked you off, what could I have done differently? How could I handle it better the next time? These things can help you, right? And I want to talk about some common barriers, right? Recognizing the struggle, some common barriers, right? As I already mentioned, fear being weak, right? Being vulnerable, not strong, right? Misinterpreting emotional exhaustion as normal, right? Like it's not normal, right? Feeling stressed and emotionally drained, right? It's not normal. And some things that you can do. Now, another thing I want to talk about, let me backtrack on that. What do we need to do for ourselves, right? What do we need to do for us when it comes to our mental health, right? Breaking the boundaries, right? Setting boundaries, being able to say no, practicing saying no, right? To obligations that drain your energy, that doesn't align with you, that's is not suited and not fit for you to be handling and doing, right? And being able to delegate, right? Being able to delegate tasks when you're at work. If you're able to, maybe you are in a managerial position, maybe you are a team lead, where you can delegate, right? And you're making sure that everyone is on point, right? And having open dialogue and communication where we are effectively listening to hearing what the other person say, right? Self-care practices, as I mentioned, such as journaling, right? To help process your emotions, right? Mindfulness exercises, as well as guided meditation and regular physical activity, how important that is, physical activity, as well as your diet, right? As well as your diet, because there are some things, such as a lot of carbs, that can help you feel more lethargic, more full and drained, right? And exhausted where you don't want to do anything, right? And it impacts your mood, all right? What are some resources? What are some resources that you can use that can help you with that? There's apps out there that you can use, such as Calm, Shine, right? That helps with your mental health, right? That are where you can text, one of those crisis lines where you can call, or you could text, crisis text line where you can call and just to talk about things, right? Maybe you don't want to share it with family or friend. Maybe you don't have the support that you need. You can look for other sources, such as other Facebook groups. And like I mentioned, some of these apps, Shine, Calm, the crisis text line, or something like that, right? So how can we break the stigma? How can we break the stigma around therapy when it comes to the Black communities, right? Therapy, as we know, in our culture, in our community, is seen as a last resort. Some people are not ashamed to say, that some people are not ashamed to say, well, I go to counseling, I'm in therapy, and I commend them for that. But people who are experiencing severe mental illnesses, they may not want to share that, right? They may or they may not want to, right? And then we have these generational beliefs, as I mentioned before, like the family business, and it should stay within the family. But no, we have to break that. We have to break that. No, because again, as the saying goes, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it takes a strong community, right, to help people in your community. So no one should be left behind, as I would say, when it comes to our mental health. No one should be left behind. No one should be forgotten. Everyone in your health matters. Your mental health matters, right? This is an important topic, right? And we cannot follow all the things that we see on television as far as these images of the strong Black woman. And as you see on some of these reality shows and stuff, and these TV shows that they have, where the woman is a strong Black woman, and yet in And also she's disrespectful of her king. She's disrespectful of her mate. It's not acceptable. It's not okay. It's something that's put out into the world as this is how a representation of the Black woman or the strong Black woman. And it is not, right? And it is not. So we want to be able to make sure that we are doing things for our mental health and well-being, right? And you have celebrities such as like Taraji P. Henson, right? Well-known celebrity who is a mental health advocate and has a foundation for Black mental health, right? This is important. And Serena Williams always mentions also the importance of self-care, how important. So you have celebrities, even people like Michelle Obama has been transparent in her openness and her struggles for the need for balance, right? And having that harmony. Listen, many of us wear different hats, right? Some of you at your jobs, you're wearing many hats for your patients, right? You're their social worker, you're their nurse and caregiver, and you're a friend to some of them, right? You're even considered a friend or even family because this is where they reside, this is where they're at, and you're their only connections when they don't have family available, all right? And so let's talk about everyday heroes, right? People who are breaking these stereotypes as the people that I just mentioned, right? We have to be open and vulnerable, right? So what can you do? What can you do to change the narrative? Are you going to continue on with the image and the persona of being a strong Black woman? Yes, we already know that this is what we need. We have to be strong in some places where we're in a one family household where it's just the mom and she's raising her children, right? But it's also the importance of having the balance, right? The harmony, the balance, where we are also not trying to bear the weight of the world and everything that we are going through, right? We also need that balance, that harmony, where we are doing the best that we can to not only to be a good provider and nurturer for our family and children and grandchildren or whatever, but also being able to be open about our emotions, being open and share what we are feeling, where we are no longer suppressing and silencing our emotions and what we are feeling. To be able to be open and express that with vulnerability. The first part of that is being able to be open and being vulnerable, all right? Being vulnerable, okay? And it frees you from so much and it brings you to a new level of awareness when you can be open and vulnerable, okay? I talked about to you, I shared the stories and experiences that I have been through, and I talked about, that I wasn't able to be vulnerable until some years into my marriage, maybe like a year or two or something like that. I got to actually check back when I wrote my book. I'm telling you, when I wrote my book and everything that I experienced, I was coming to like, these different levels of awareness because even as you grow and you learn, the real teaching comes from the real life experience, right? So the real life experience. So me going from a career of making over 70 grand, right? And deciding to change careers and relocate and give up my job and go into something different that I felt was better, not only to have to lose it all and lose everything, right? And go and battle and deal with losing everything from being homeless, eviction, bankruptcy, car repo, repossession, all of that, right? It brought me to a new level of awareness. But not only that, I gained strength from what I endured, the resilience, right? But it was only, and I was through the whole process, it was me learning so much more about me and who I am. And I had time to reflect on the bad decisions and choices that I made, right? And then seeing the good that came out of it, right? Me being able to express and me creating this podcast. Not only is it therapeutic for me, and I enjoy doing it. Like I said, I don't care if I had one person that listened to me every day and benefited from it, right? I'm doing what I feel I need to do, right? And I want to share that with you. And being able to come to this level. You ever hear that there's levels to this? There's different levels. There really is different levels, right? I came to so many different levels of awareness, right? And that level of that place of vulnerability it seems scary. It seems scary because you don't want to put it all out there. You don't want to put your heart on your sleeve, and you don't want to share or reveal certain things. Now, of course, you would do this with someone that you have a level of trust with, right? That you have a level of trust with, and being open about it, and having the courage to talk about it, right? Even with strangers online or Instagram or whatever, because you don't know who you may reach, who you can help in the process. So you have to think about it like that, right? You have to think about it in that way. Me open up and sharing about my vulnerabilities and things that I've gone through, right? Losing everything, depression, right? Health issues, right? All of these things, being able to openly talk about it, right? And even my diagnosis of being diagnosed with ADHD, right? The level and the place of vulnerability, right? You can help someone. So I share all of my vulnerability, right? Most, if not all of my vulnerability, right? I'm not afraid, all right? Because I know what it can do when you open up. It brings you to a new level of awareness and can help you tremendously. So let's change the narrative, all right? You're a strong Black woman who is don't mind being open and being able to share some of those weaknesses, being open, but sharing the vulnerability, because that's where the true strength lies. The true strength lies in being able to do it, because we are no longer suppressing our emotions. Okay. We're no longer suppressing. My thoughts go quicker than my words. Okay. So when I fumble up, just go along with it, go with the flow. Okay. So listen, we're no longer suppressing these things. We are paying attention to our emotions. We're tapping in. We're journaling. We're writing. We're expressing ourselves. We're taking a look, right, on ourselves and how we can be better and do better. And the strong Black woman myth, we're strong. Yes, we're strong. But what woman doesn't have to be strong? What woman in a world that's mainly predominantly ran by men, right? So I get it why some women in these high executive corporate positions, when they say, oh, she's tough, she's this, we're in this world where it's like driven by men, right? And so, and not being some feminists or anything like that, but just we're seeing where we can fit in. We can fit into these different positions, right? We can fit in and do our job just as effectively, if not better than men. Right. And this topic is not on male bashing or anything like that. But I'm just saying how I can see in the roles where sometimes we have to wear these hats and we have to have this persona and this image because we are looked at already as weak. So I just wanted to share and talk about this topic and share that with you. I will put some links in the description. Like if you're looking for support, some type of outreach or foundations or whatever, if you're looking for something, I will go ahead and put those in the description. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please hit that like button, share, and subscribe. And I just want to say this, I'm not revealing it just yet, but I have something in the works, and I'm not going to reveal it yet, but I do have something in the works, okay, on this very topic. But stay tuned. I'm not ready to really reveal it yet. Okay. But just stay tuned, keep watching, keep plugging in, stay connected. And until next time, bye for now. And hey, feel free if you ever want to reach out. I'm on Instagram, Facebook. I don't use Facebook that much, but YouTube, send me a direct message or whatever, and I will be happy to get back at you. All right. Until next time, guys, love you. Stay safe. Stay well. Bye for now.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of Health Coach for Women with Marsha Roopchand-Walker. If you've enjoyed this episode, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. That helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Once again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.